What if one of the most dominant wide receivers in the NFL could be on the move? And not just any move, but a blockbuster trade that could completely reshape the balance of power across the entire league. Because right now, rumors are heating up around A.J. Brown. And if there's even a small chance that the Philadelphia Eagles would consider moving him, then every single contender in the NFL is paying attention. And here on Touchdown Talk 360, where we break down the biggest NFL rumors, trades, and game-changing scenarios, we're diving deep into what's really going on, why this rumor is gaining traction, which teams could realistically make a move, and how a trade like this could send shockwaves through the league. Because make no mistake, this isn't just another rumor. This is the kind of situation that could completely alter playoff races, fantasy football rankings, and even Super Bowl odds overnight. Now let's start with the most important question. Why would the Eagles even consider trading A.J. Brown in the first place? Because when you look at his production, his impact, and his chemistry with quarterback Jalen Hurts, it's hard to imagine Philadelphia willingly giving up one of the most explosive weapons in football. And that's exactly why this situation is so fascinating. Because trades like this don't usually happen unless there's something bigger going on behind the scenes, whether it's contract concerns, salary cap pressure, locker room dynamics, or long-term roster planning. And while nothing is confirmed, insiders have hinted that teams around the league are at least monitoring the situation, which is enough to spark serious speculation. One of the biggest factors in any potential trade scenario is the financial side, because A.J. Brown is a premium player at a premium position, and that means any team looking to acquire him would need to be prepared to take on a significant contract while also giving up valuable assets like high draft picks or young players. And in today's NFL, where the salary cap plays such a huge role in team building, every major decision has long-term consequences. So if the Eagles were to even consider a move like this, it would likely be part of a much bigger strategy aimed at reshaping the roster for sustained success rather than just one season. But let's flip the perspective for a moment and look at this from the viewpoint of potential buyers. Because if A.J. Brown were somehow available, the list of interested teams would be massive, with contenders and even rebuilding franchises lining up to make offers. Because adding a receiver of his caliber instantly transforms an offense, giving quarterbacks a reliable target who can win one-on-one matchups, stretch the field, and make game-changing plays in critical moments. And we've seen time and time again how one elite receiver can elevate an entire team's performance, especially in a league that is increasingly focused on explosive passing attacks. Teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, and Dallas Cowboys could all theoretically benefit from adding a player like Brown, because each of these teams has a strong foundation but could become even more dangerous with another elite weapon. And imagine pairing A.J. Brown with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. The offensive potential would be absolutely terrifying for opposing defenses, creating mismatches across the field and forcing defensive coordinators into impossible situations. And that's why even the possibility of a trade is generating so much buzz across the league. Another team that could enter the conversation is the Miami Dolphins, who already have speed and explosiveness on offense, but could take things to another level by adding a physical, dominant receiver like Brown to complement their existing weapons, creating one of the most complete and dangerous receiving corps in the NFL. And when you think about how offenses are evolving, having multiple elite receivers is becoming less of a luxury and more of a necessity for teams that want to compete at the highest level. Of course, any trade scenario also raises questions about what the Eagles would get in return, because a player of A.J. Brown's caliber doesn't come cheap, and Philadelphia would likely demand a significant package that could include first-round draft picks, young talent, or even multiple assets that help them build for the future. And this is where things get even more complicated, because the Eagles are already a competitive team, meaning they would need to balance the idea of future gains with the risk of weakening their current roster, especially when they are still in a position to contend for a championship. The timing of this rumor is also important, because it's happening during the offseason, when teams are evaluating their rosters, planning for the draft, and exploring ways to improve. And this is often when the biggest trades take shape, because front offices are more willing to make bold moves before the season begins, rather than during it. And if there is any truth to these rumors, the next few weeks could be critical in determining whether this situation develops into something real or fades away as just another piece of off-season speculation. Another layer to consider is the impact on team chemistry, because trading a star player like A.J. Brown isn't just a financial or strategic decision. It also affects the locker room, the leadership structure, and the overall identity of the team. And for the Eagles, who have built a strong culture around their core players, making a move like this would signal a major shift in direction. Which is why many analysts believe it's unlikely, unless there are significant underlying reasons driving the decision. For fans, this situation creates a mix of excitement and uncertainty, because while the idea of blockbuster trades is always thrilling, it also raises concerns about what it means for their favorite team. And for Eagles fans in particular, the thought of losing a player like A.J. Brown is difficult to imagine, given his impact on the field and his connection with the fan base. But at the same time, the NFL is a business, and teams must constantly make decisions based on long-term goals rather than just short-term success. From a fantasy football perspective, this rumor is equally massive, because a trade involving A.J. Brown would instantly change his value, as well as the value of other players on both his current team and any potential new team, creating opportunities and challenges for fantasy managers who need to stay ahead of these developments to make informed decisions. And this is just another example of how interconnected the NFL ecosystem is, where one move can have ripple effects across multiple areas of the game. As we move closer to the draft and further into the offseason, expect more updates, more speculation, and possibly even concrete developments regarding this situation. Because when insiders start talking about potential trades involving star players, it's usually a sign that something is at least being discussed behind closed doors, even if it doesn't ultimately happen. And that's why staying informed and paying attention to credible sources is so important during this time of year. Here on Touchdown Talk 360, we'll continue to track every rumor, every report, and every potential trade scenario, giving you the analysis and insight you need to understand what's really happening and how it could impact your favorite teams. Because if A.J. Brown were to be traded, it wouldn't just be another headline. It would be a league-shifting move that could redefine contenders, alter playoff races, and change the direction of multiple franchises. And until we get official confirmation one way or the other, the question remains, is this just off-season noise? Or are we on the verge of one of the biggest trades in recent NFL history?